Hey everyone, how's it going? It's the Conservative Christian coming back at you guys with another video. I'm a little sick today, so some of you might be hearing the difference in my voice today, and I might be sniffling a little bit, but it's not too bad, I guess. But yeah, so in this video, we're going to kind of be talking a little bit. I think I have it titled something. I don't know what I have it titled as yet, but it's something along the lines of the creation of the earth and Doctor Strange. And some of you guys are probably wondering what is that? But you guys are probably wondering, well, what does Doctor Strange have to do with any of this? Well, I'm going to get to that, and just a heads up, this is probably going to end up being a series because I cannot do all of this in one video. I've already tried. Even just on this point alone, I've tried to keep it brief, and I'm having problems with that. I think I keep going on too many rabbit trails, so I'm going to try not to do that this time around. So this video is going to be kind of based around the question that I've seen a lot of atheists ask and pose, although I don't think it's a question that they actually are seeking answers to. It's just more of meant to be a gotcha. But for those who actually care, or even for those who are probably like-minded in the sense that they are Christians, maybe who have had this question asked, hopefully this can either be a tool for those guys, or hopefully for the atheists out there, the 1% of you that exist, for those of you who are actually looking for questions or for answers to your questions, hopefully I can provide something for you guys here in this series if you guys stay with me anyway. So the question is, if God exists, then why would he create a world knowing that people would go to hell? Now I think there are some sub questions within this question. I know that in some cases, some atheists say if a good God exists, or if God is good, the God that we're talking about, if he is good, then why would he create a world knowing people would go to hell? And then some atheists also ask the question that is a sub question, which is, why does God send people to hell? I'm going to be talking about all of those things, but in this specific video, I'm going to be basically laying just kind of, well, first of all, giving you the foundation of what this is going to be about. That is a series. I'm going to try and use something that's relevant to kind of today's culture as a talking point. I actually haven't seen Endgame yet, but that's okay because I'm actually going to be referring to Infinity War. Something that this whole series is going to kind of encompass is a scene from Infinity War where Doctor Strange, he went into his little meditation pose, and he went on his voyage to look at the 14 plus million different scenarios and found the one that the Avengers had a chance, I think it was, of actually winning. Some of you guys might be wondering, what does that have to do with this? Some of you guys might know where I'm going with this, but there's only one way to find out for sure. That's to stick with me on this. So I will be getting around to that as the video unfolds. You'll kind of see where I'm going with this. For the first video, at least, I might have to kind of do this with some other points. I would like to first establish baselines for some of these videos, at least for this one for now, until I figure out how things are going to unfold. I wanted to start, I guess, with the second half of this question, which is more along the lines of the hell aspect. There's a lot of misunderstandings from atheists. I don't know if that's because Christians don't do a good job at explaining things, or if because they aren't listening, or a combination of the two, but that's what I hope to kind of do in this video. And to start off, I am going to I'm going to try and keep it short. I'll get into all of the sub questions and the nuances later, but I just want to, it's important to establish these baselines. So I'm going to be discussing hell. I'm going to be discussing what hell is, kind of who it was created for, and just basically what is it. So I have some verses that I'm going to be using here. My first one that I'm going to be using is from Matthew 25:41. There's pretext. You guys can obviously look into this for yourself if you would like, if you think that I'm cherry picking, because I know that cherry picking happens all over the place in the Bible, on both sides. I've seen Christians take verses out of context. I've seen atheists take verses out of context. In this specific verse, this is Jesus talking. He is basically talking about how on Judgment Day, he's going to separate the sheep from the goats, and the sheep in this context and culture represents the people who are saved, or aka in the verse, as in the chapter he says righteous, versus the goats who are not saved. And then, so in this part, he's talking to the goats who are on his left, So the verse says, "Then he will say to those on his left, 'Depart from me, you cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels.'" You can look into the pre-context if you want to. I don't think it's relevant in the sense of making the point of who hell was created for. This is Jesus speaking, and this is talking about Judgment Day, and it's very straightforward as to what is being said here, and who hell was created for. Now, the eternal fire, it's a different phrase. That's, if you want to get into semantics, it means the exact same thing. The eternal fire, hell technically wasn't even the word that was used to describe it back then anyways. The eternal fire is actually the more accurate version. It's like how we say Christians. Christian wasn't in the Bible. It's just a term that we've coined to simplify a concept. And I actually feel like that actually hasn't done Christians the service that it was intended to do. Just the same way that hell, same thing. But it's the old way that hell was described back in that time, because remember, this was written in a different culture. But that's pretty much it right there. It says right there that "Depart from me, you cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels." So it's very clear here, according to Jesus, aka the Son of God, that hell was initially created for Satan, for the devil and his angels. Now, where do we see this specifically? Well, we see this there's probably other verses, but this was the one that I found that I chose to use. There might be more. There probably is, but this is one that I decided to use. So this is a section from Revelation. For those of you who don't know, Revelation was a book that was written by John, which was one of the disciples of Jesus, one of the people that Jesus used to start off his ministry, I guess would be after he ascended into heaven for the last time. And he chose to give John visions. So John is seeing into the past, because the context of this verse is actually showing what happened in the spiritual realm when Satan rebelled against God. So the pretext says that Satan was defeated, basically, and then he was cast to earth. And the purpose of this is just to kind of show what happened to Satan as a result of him being kicked out of heaven. So it says, "When the dragon saw that he had been hurled to earth," dragon being Satan, pretext says that, "he pursued the woman who had given birth to the male child." That would be Jesus and Mary and Jesus. "The woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle, so that she might fly to the place prepared for her in the wilderness, where she would be taken care of for a times and half a time, out of the serpent's reach. Then from his mouth the serpent spewed water like a river to overtake the woman and sweep her away with the torrent. But the earth helped the woman by opening its mouth and swallowing the river that the dragon had spewed out of his mouth. Then the dragon was enraged at the woman and went off to wage war against the rest of her offspring, those who keep God's commandments and hold fast their testimony about Jesus." So first verse pretty much says that when he was hurled to the earth. This is my last point, then I'm going to wrap this video up. So Satan wasn't obviously sent immediately to hell. That was pretty much just the point of this verse. It says that he was hurled to earth because that was the only place that he had to go to. The reason why this matters and this is important is because there are atheists out there who will argue, like, why did God put us also on an earth where we were tempted? That might be an argument that I'm kind of striking preemptively here a little bit, but some atheists or people are going to try and ask or argue, like, why did God even put Satan here if he's the one who tempted us in the first place? But I also use that as a way to show that it's more context to show who hell was created for, because the section showing that Satan rebelled against God. And so that is why hell was created, because Satan was in God's realm, he sinned against him, and because God would not tolerate that, he had to send him somewhere. An example that I'll use later and that I like to give a lot is an example of Bill Gates and his creation. Bill Gates created Microsoft. He created a non-tangible program that obviously uses tangible means, but my screen, the objects that are on my screen are not tangible. They're light that have images on them, and God I should say Bill Gates is a parallel of God in a smaller scale sense, meaning that God is like Bill Gates in the sense that the computer is his creation. That is where he has put everything, the trees, the flowers, the earth, the universe, and all of that stuff. And so in his world, this is the only place that something can exist in a non-tangible source that is not directly within his presence. And how I mean by that is that some people might ask, well, why didn't God send him somewhere else? Like if I represent God right now and this computer represents Earth or the whole universe, why couldn't I have used my power to maybe convert Satan into like a piece of wood and mounted him on my wall as a guitar or something like that? Or why couldn't I have put him somewhere else? Now, I don't know what the other realm looks like. I don't even know if there's anything else there, but I don't want to make assumptions, but the best way that I can really kind of put this is that I would say that even if in God's realm there is a whole nother world, that even if God had made Satan something lesser than him, it still would have been in his presence, in the sense that it wouldn't matter if I had put Satan halfway across the world or whatever, he would still be in my presence because that would be my world. So because he was no longer allowed to be in my world, anywhere in my world, I had to make him something that was not in my world. And obviously Data, for example, it is in my world in a sense, but it's not something that is directly in my world that it can influence things in my world. So what I believe that happened here is that God took Satan, he basically either put him on a hard drive or something, or he converted him into a metaphorical data, and he put him into the computer because that was the only other place that he could go to. Now, if you think about it, technology is really the only thing that we have in this world that I can think of that would be considered a different realm, in the sense that things that are in the data world cannot directly do things in our world without physical sources giving them inputs to do things. So even in that sense, technology, I think, basically represents the difference in worlds. So because Satan could not just be a piece of wood or grass, or he couldn't be any of these things, because within God's realm that would be the equivalent of a physical thing, meaning that would actually be a physical part of his world. God had to make him something lesser to basically put him in his place, but also to put him in a place that he could not directly impact or have an effect in God's world. So he turned him into Data, and he shoved him into a computer, because that is the only place where Satan is limited in power. Now, we obviously do see in some cases, like with Lot, or Job, that Satan actually did come into the presence of God, but that was because God allowed it, and it was for a short time. God is God. He has that authority. He can save Satan, can come out of the computer for a second, for a limited time, before he basically sends it back in. But there's also another verse that I should have brought up, but it shows that Satan is the ruler of this world. Because Satan could not exist in the world of God, he had to be put somewhere else. And the only other place that I can think of in God's world was the metaphorical computer. That is also where we are, which sucks. But again, this is going to tie into the free will aspect and all of that stuff. But that is why Satan is part of our world. That is who hell was created for. And in the oncoming videos, I'm going to be obviously expanding more on this. I'm going to be expanding more on, what's my reason for why I say God is good. Why did God allow Satan here in the first place? Why didn't he just destroy him immediately? And all of that stuff. So we'll be getting into that into the future videos, but just to recap very quickly, hell was created initially for Satan. Satan was the first thing to actually sin, and because of Lucifer, it was actually his name is now Satan. Because of that, God had to remove him from his presence, because God does not tolerate sin in his presence. And the only other place that he could pretty much put him in was the computer for now. And we're going to be talking more about more of this stuff as this series unfolds. This video is kind of getting long already, so I'm just going to kind of leave it there. So I hope that this first video was a good way to kind of make a baseline for what hell is. And then in the next video, I actually have to figure out what that one's going to be about. I think I might be talking about God's nature, you know, the good the first half of the question, if God is good, you know, then why? But we'll see. I'll make it flow somehow. But yeah, that's pretty much what I got for this video, guys. So until next time, this is the Conservative Christian signing out.